What is good, guys? The Across the Cowboys podcast is back. I'm your host, Paul Ryan, and with me, as always, are the greatest co-hosts in the world, Mike the Pig Crump and Brendan Fergie Smith. Gentlemen, how are you?
I'm doing good. I feel like I'm with my ex though, because like when my ex cheated on me, she was like, "But I love both you guys," and it's like, wait a minute, what do you mean both co-hosts are the best in the world? I went from being the best in the world to now I'm like,
hey, you're sharing that. You're sharing that. Hey.
Hey, I got to show love to both of you guys, man.
Dude, I had no idea where you were going with the whole X talk. I got really confused there for a second.
It'll be funny if next week you two are only on the pod, and I'm like, hey, I never got an invite here. What happened?
Yeah, so Mike was sick. He had to go to bed early, so that's why we're just doing us today.
I'm in the waiting room. Wait a minute.
Never that, Mike. Never that. Whenever you're available, we got to have you on, sir. Without you, this show would be about 15, 20 minutes.
That's true. That's true.
Well, after a fumbled intro, let's get into it, guys. The Cowboys wrapped up week 2 of OTAs recently, and we are 115 days away from our week 1 battle against the Philadelphia Eagles. The season is so close, yet so far away. But let's try to focus on the good. Brendan, what are your favorite reports from week 2 of OTAs?
My first one, Kyrie Elam continues to shine. Like, seriously, every time they talk about him, I'm like, oh, he made another play. Mm-hmm. Oh, another pass breakup. No, he's covering down good. Yeah. Just making plays. And you go, huh. I didn't hear a lot about that coming out of Buffalo almost ever. So it's always just nice to hear that.
Mike, what about you? What's one of your favorite reports?
Can you guess what my number one favorite report is? You guys should know what it is. Come on.
I don't. No.
You really don't? Yeah.
No injuries.
Knocking some wood, though, my dude.
Always.
There you go.
So that's always my number one. And then my other is Brevin Spanford. Hearing he's looking like a monster out there, and I would love to have a legit blocking big guy tight end 2 that could. I just want them to have as much options as weapons as possible. Turpin has some speed, difference-making speed, and Pickens is your big guy that you could 50-50 to. Lamb does everything. Jake Ferguson's a seam guy. Jaden Blue and Williams are effective out of the backfield. And now you have 6'7" big boy moving around Brevin Spanford. So just keep adding stuff for us to use on offense.
Giving Dak all the weapons he needs in his arsenal. I like that. Different types of weapons, too. They bring up a good point there. A couple of my favorite reports was one, I just heard this today, but apparently CeeDee Lamb had dropped a long ball, and he went to the sidelines and started doing push-ups, and George Pickens goes next to him and starts doing them with him, showing a bromance, if you will. I guess their friendship is a real thing. They really do like each other. It's not just camera talk. So I really like hearing that, man, just because if those guys are having fun, I think that's a good sign for what this team could potentially be this year. And another report I liked was recently Miles Sanders was reported to be looking good. I know it's just shorts and T-shirts, but we heard a lot about Javonte Williams and things like that, and a lot of people are predicting that Miles Sanders is going to be the odd man out in that running back room. So I like hearing that he's been playing well, just because I kind of feel like I've been alone in thinking that he's going to be a big part of this offense, but we shall see. He's making strides to do that. And then my last report here, I don't know, this might be kind of cheating, but I was watching Botch Lombardi, kind of just doing some research on OTAs and getting some notes and everything, and just Tyler Guyton's mindset and attitude about how he played last year and what he wants to do this year. Liked hearing about him holding himself accountable and just saying that he needs to be playing better. And the thought was that he didn't have the right mindset. That was a question about, maybe his mental toughness. And I think he's showing strides and already bettering that as well.
I wrote down 4 things for this, and it was Elam, Guyton, the Lamb Pickens relationship, and Brevin Spanford. And I was like, Brevin Spanford's the one that's the least likely to be talked about. Yeah. So I picked that one, and it worked out well.
Y'all, none of y'all talked about Hunter Lipke though, and how they're coming out and saying he's doing everything. He's playing tight end, he's playing fullback, he's playing running back, and like he's doing everything the right way, which is a big thing coming from Shoddy because that's all they're talking about. It's just character, So he's playing everything, and we know he is a weapon. He can block. He could. Yeah. Wasn't it Kyle Hamilton? He did a really nice corner catch against him. I'm pretty sure. That, and then also Jack Sanborn, cheapest linebacker we got, and he looks like he's going to start.
Just how the Cowboys love it.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. Shout out to Hunter Lipke, man. Could be this team's joker. We hear a lot about that with Sean Payton and the Broncos. I never thought about maybe the Cowboys having a guy like that, but I do love to hear that. I know I was kind of rooting a lot for Hunter Lipke last year. I had added him to a fantasy team just because of the Cowboys running back situation was so putrid last year that I thought maybe he could do something. We kind of saw some signs. It was 2023. I know he didn't do much last year, but shout out to him, and that could be a fun player to have on this offense. Mike was already talking about just having weapons on this team, with Pickens and Brevin Spanford and things like that. So add Hunter Lipke to that list. It's not always all good in OTAs. What are some reports, some negative reports, or lack there, reports you're hoping to hear but haven't heard yet on some coming out of Cowboys camp, Mike?
I know it's going to be this way, but I don't love the bland in the slot thing. Yeah. I don't, not because I don't think it's a smart move. I just hate that they're in that situation that they have to move their best outside corner into the slot, and I know they'll do it in a different way. Like I know what the plan is, and it's fine. It's just irritating that it has to be that way instead of them just getting a guy who's good in the slot, like bringing back Jordan Lewis or something, And my other is not. I haven't really. I mean, a little bit from Jay Toia, is I guess got some run with the ones and everything, but not a lot from the one technique has been like. And it's, it is what it is. It's shirts and T-shirts and everything like that. You're not going to learn a lot from them, but I wish there was some kind of stories, even like the Pickens doing push-ups, like just something that's going on in that room that lends towards positive, even off the field or just in mindset, or you just don't hear anything about it, and that's disappointing.
Brendan, what about you? What you got?
Yeah. First one I thought about was the new cadence. So the cadence is changing. So the "here we go" is gone. So everything's iconic is just gone, which is just sad and depressing, and all that. We also I haven't heard much about Maurice Leofau. I hear so much about Sanborn, and I hear so much about Murray. Those being your number 1 and number 2 linebackers. I haven't heard much about Leofau at all, even though we sung his praises last year. Could just be a new scheme, and they're trying to get him to fit in. But talking about 2 linebacker work, it's just been Murray and Sanborn. And then also, everyone keeps talking about how awesome Shoddy is, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, he's really building this culture. He's building we feel like a family." I've heard almost nothing about Eberflus, honestly. From defensive players coming out here going to this scheme, this is it. We feel so comfortable. I haven't heard much about it at all. So it makes me feel weird. They're talking Shoddy like he's up here as the best coach out there, and they haven't really talked about Shoddy.
I'll give one to you. Oso Digizua came out and he said that the D line, not Eberflus specifically, but that the D line and the stuff that they're working on, he was like, last year we weren't even taught that, and he said that I feel like I'm going to be able to make some more plays because of some of the techniques we're being taught on the D line. So that is one thing I heard. Nothing about Eberflus, but at least something defensively that's a little different.
No, I haven't heard that, so it's nice.
Something I wanted to ask both of you guys when now that you bring that up, Brendan, but is it could that also be just because they're not practicing in pads and things like that, so maybe it's a little bit harder to see what the defense is going to be doing this year schematically and just, kind of packages and things like that? Is it harder to evaluate and really see what this defense could be when they're in OTAs as compared to training camp?
Are you asking me or Mike?
Both of you guys. I'm asking both.
You want me to go first, Brendan?
Yeah, you got it.
My thing with it is I don't think there's when you look at the Dallas defense, Micah Parsons is your star edge rusher.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything's going to build around him and Osa on the D line. There hasn't been big changes there. Where on the other end, Shoddy's an offensive coach. They brought in Clayton Adams and Connor Riley, who's new. Their first round pick was a guard. They brought George Pickens in on a trade. Their running backs are all new running backs. You know, rookies and 2 veterans, but all new to here. So I think it's kind of like defensively, they're like, okay, Eberflus is more of an attacking system, Dan Quinn style, got it. Look at all the new shit on offense. Dak's coming back from injury, new offensive lineman, first round, new receiver, new running backs, new scheme. And so I think that's why it's been more concentrated on that.
Anything to add to that, Brendan?
Well, also it's just like they're not in pads. Like Deion Sanders could guard guys best at that. He's not going to guard someone from 8 to 10 seconds because there's no pass rush. And all that pass rush is a huge thing for defense. You can have the best scheme out there. Someone's going to get open if you have no pass rush. So guess what? That's when half your defense isn't being shown.
It's one of the reasons I'm interested in not the – it's weird because the NFC East, like I'm doing rankings in the NFC East, and the Eagles lost a lot in their defensive line. I don't know if that pass rush is going to be the same. And then they lost their veterans in the DT room. Now, I like Vic Fangio. I'm not going to say they're going to be a bottom 5 defense or anything, but if they're a 13th ranked defense instead of 2nd ranked, what does that do? And then Washington, Dan Quinn with his run defense, they're basically atrocious across the board that way. And how does that impact their defense, and then on the other end impact a young quarterback if teams are able to go down and score on them, if the turnovers aren't the same and teams are running on them? You look at Philly, you look at Dallas, the emphasis is the run. I'm interested to see because Dallas kind of went pass rush. They're pass rush heavy defensively.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to be built around. I don't see that from the other teams other than the Giants, and I don't know if the Giants are in that conversation with the other 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could look at just comparing the defensive lines, and Giants could have the best defensive line starting unit at least.
I can tell you that ranking them right now, I have them first. I have them the number 1 defensive line. Brian Burns, Thibodeau, Carter, Dexter Lawrence, and the kid is it Darius Alexander. You never know with rookies, but we're doing a little bit of projection. You put him around those other guys and put him around Dexter Lawrence, he's going to get a lot of one-on-none blocks. So, how you doing, Jordan?
Jordan, what up, man? Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, man. I know that I'm not saying the Giants are like a playoff team or anything, but I think they're a team that could like give people more fits than what they're predicted to do.
Somebody today I saw, and I hate to get it. This is why the show goes an hour and 15 minutes. It's my fault. But somebody said today when the announcement of the center from the Lions retiring, somebody was like, I'm calling it now. The New York Giants are going to upset the Detroit Lions. And I thought about it, and I'm like, my first instinct was, yeah, sure, buddy. And then I thought about it. I was like, well, Jared Goff is not great with pressure, and that Dexter Lawrence is going to be a problem in there. And they have edge rushers that can at least, the tackles on Detroit are pretty good. But when you have Micah Parsons, he's going to cause problems no matter how good your tackles are. And they have guys that could be like that. And I was like, that's not a bad, if I'm a betting guy and I get the right odds, that's not a horrible bet to make if you get the right odds on Detroit Giants. That defensive line is going to cause problems for Detroit.
And
So,
also, just kind of sticking with Detroit real quick, they did also lose their offensive coordinator. And I don't know if it's their quarterback coach, but another piece on the system. So,
O-line coach
that offense, my O-line coach,
and
we saw what happened to the Eagles when they lost their DC and their OC. Who's to say it couldn't happen? I mean, the Lions also lost their OC and their DC and their O-line coach. It's an interesting year for the Lions, man.
Yeah, they might have missed their window, man. Honestly, how crazy is that? They probably win if they're healthy, and now you look at them, and you're like, well, they got injured. Next year they're going to come back healthy. They'll be good. Yeah. And you're like, yeah, both coordinators, O-line coaches down. Your center retires. You lose a edge rusher. You don't know how Aiden Hutchinson's going to come back, and you're like, damn, Detroit could be the third team in their division. It's wild. They probably won't, but they could.
Yeah. Shout out to a new listener here, Hector Colon. Appreciate you stopping by, Hector.
Thank you, Hector. Appreciate it.
We've had a couple of new listeners, it seems like the last couple of weeks, every week. So we appreciate you guys for tuning in, man. I hope you're enjoying the show, and thank you again for your support. As far as my negative reports or lack thereof reports that, annoy me, if you will, but number one is still Micah Parsons not being signed. I know that it wasn't predicted that he would be signed at this point, but just kind of annoying that still hasn't happened. I haven't even heard any discussions that are being had between the team and Micah Parsons and his team. Number two is no real plan at corner outside of Jerron Bland. Mike, you already kind of touched on that. It's nice to hear Kaiir Elam making some plays in OTAs, but it just doesn't seem like there's any real not eagerness, but I'm not sure what word it is I'm looking for, but they don't even seem like they're really trying or have a backup plan in case things don't work out. I know I did hear that that Stephon Gilmore was their guy that, if they go to training camp and things aren't looking great, that they can just, kind of pick him up. And I think that he might be a guy that we could see again in the locker room and on the team. So that was kind of encouraging to hear. And then my last one was Mazi Smith, not hearing anything about him. Mike, I know you talked about Toya and not anything else from there. So kind of touching on that as well. But I'm surprised that Mazi Smith hasn't really been making any noise.
I agree. And I know it's no pads, but just something like he's put on weight or he's moving better or you just haven't heard any reports really about him at all.
Yeah. There you go. No sense of urgency. Thank you, Hector, for sure. Yeah, I mean,
that's
the Cowboys' way.
Yeah, they hope. Well, we hope Diggs gets back and plays like Diggs, and we hope Siobhan Ravel is the guy we want him to be. We hope Carson develops. We hope Josh Butler comes back from injury. Or you could have just Jordan Lewis, and right now you'd be like, okay, we paid the highest nickel. It's too bad. But you have the Eagles pay Cam Jurgens, and I just did offensive line rankings that just dropped right now, right before we started. And it's Cam Jurgens is okay, and they paid him. Okay, we got to pay him. We don't somebody told me from an Eagles channel was it's continuity and the fact that they don't love the draft for centers coming up. So they'd rather just get Cam Jurgens, who's serviceable, like a Biata type, and they'll be fine with the good players around him. And that made sense to me, but it's just the fact that Eagles can pay everyone and Dallas can't pay Jordan Lewis. Okay, even if Jordan Lewis is only good for another, 2 seasons, and the third season you're paying him and he's not going to be the same guy. He's going to be like Donovan Wilson, go or a veteran offensive tackle. Just in case Guyton isn't the guy, you go out of, there's a veteran DT, you could have made a trade for a DJ Reader. Just fill up your team, and then if you went out and got whoever you want to add, Jordan Lewis, Gilmore, whatever, and then Diggs came back and played great, and then Josh Butler came back and was great, and Siobhan Ravel was a first-year All-Pro, shocking. Okay, great. Then you got friggin' 5 options to put out there. It's not a bad thing. There's injuries and it just, they'll never do that though. It'll always be well, if everything works out well, we could be a contender, but it's 10 things got to fall right for us. That's how they always are, on that thin line.
Yeah, it's still like somewhat shocking that they went out and made that Amari Cooper trade when they first did trading a first round pick and making that kind of move. And we had a losing record to even make that. But the fact that they even did that, kind of just shows you how they operate, because going into that season, man, our wide receiver room was putrid.
That's why they like to do enough to stay relevant, where you could go, well, if this happens, well, Detroit just lost their center and their coordinators, and Eagles D-line's not the same, and their right guard's not great. Maybe Washington has a fallback, and, Matt Stafford's getting old. Maybe we could, find a way to get in there. We have a new system and they just want you to be able to have hope. And once they get that and they have you buying the Kool-Aid, then they're like, okay, we've done enough. Let's hope it works out.
Yeah, banking on other teams' failures to have success on your own team is not the way to operate. Let's move on here. How much better, if at all, would you feel about our defense and team overall, Mike, if Dallas drafted Jahdae Barron instead of Tyler Booker at 12?
None, really. I think I like Jahdae Barron, but if you look at it right now, they're going to put Deron Bland and Elam on the outside, and then move Bland in the slot and 3 wide, and probably Siobhan Ravel is going outside. So in that situation, I don't see Barron. I don't know if he'd be better than Elam or whatever on the outside, or if he'd be only your nickel. But my top 3 corners in the draft were Hunter, Barron, and Ravel. Those are my 3 highest ranked corners. And we got the one guy in the 3rd round. So we already got a guy at a better value that I think could be as good as anybody. And we'd lose Booker. And if you look at our division, you need to be stout at left guard, center, right guard. So I think we would have gotten worse if we did that. As far as cornerback room, by week 8, when we get a healthy guy or two, a Barron would be just the extra that we like, which I don't mind in signing a guy, but in drafting, I have to lose Tyler Booker and probably Siobhan Ravel, because they're not going to draft 2 corners, just not what Dallas is going to do in the top 100.
What do you think, Brendan? Would you have been happier if maybe we'd taken Barron at 12 instead of Booker?
No, this team is not. This team is more built with the offensive line. That's what they like. They always try to build with the offensive line. We've seen Guyton hopefully make it the next step, but Dallas will always put more value into that. Also, a top 12 pick on only a slot corner. Not the biggest fan of that, because you can get slot corner. We got Jordan Lewis in the 3rd in what was that 2017, and he became one of the best nickels in the league. You can get you can get slot corner, but also our defense is so much different to what Denver's defense is. They have their healthy number 1 corner, and Patrick Surtain. They signed a corner. I totally forgot who they got. So they have Jahdae Barron just needs to play the slot. Right now, he would honestly, if you have a 1st round pick on him, you would say, hey, can you play on the outside on base for 3 downs, and then go to the slot, like what they're asking for Bland to do. So would you feel comfortable with Jahdae Barron on the outside? I really wouldn't. Booker has won me over. Like I said, I wanted fun. That is the reason why I was upset on Booker, not the player itself. I just wanted something entertaining. But I
think Booker's actually going to be fun, dude.
Well, but you know what I mean. Football.
No, I know exactly what you mean, but when you just hear him talk and his attitude and mindset, dude, it's like this guy's gonna.
By fun, you mean a skill position?
Yeah. Us football nerds, we're gonna see exactly what he does. He can make an awful play where you're like, oh man, he got beat bad, and we're all gonna know. Or oh shit, Dak threw a 50-yard bomb, but you see him pancake Dexter Lawrence, and you go, I saw that. I didn't really even see the deep ball. I was staring at that. But this team needed Booker way more than they needed a slot corner.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you guys. Just wanted to throw that out there because I wasn't sure if even with the addition of Booker, maybe offense was still kind of a concern, but I know, with the addition of George Pickens, obviously that kind of eliminated that. Should the Cowboys play more situational football to help their defense, Mike?
Yeah, this team is going to be a lot like the Dan Quinn defense teams. They're going to need to eliminate the run by offensively and situational defense, doing your best to
Mm.
maybe load up if you need to, or scheme towards stopping the run first, because you might not have the horses to do it up front. So yeah, ideally for Dallas, it would be get ahead early, make other teams pass, and then run the ball to lower possessions so that your defense isn't on the field that much. And that's basically situational football. So yeah, that would be ideal for Dallas.
Can the defense be assignment sound in a better scheme and mask the talent deficiencies, Brendan?
It depends on who you're facing, honestly.
Yeah.
Because like against Detroit and Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, no, you're going to need a lot more than just scheme to plant. They still have a very good offensive line. But I honestly, if we played San Fran now, I know motion is still breaks us, but we have a new scheme again, so maybe it'll be different. But like those are the type of teams your scheme will change the outcomes. Because half the time, remember when we played the Saints last year, motion safeties had no idea what to do. Malik Hooker was staring in the backfield still, and you had to see Raheed Shaheed just go deep. And go, oh, okay, cool, that's great. So it's still talent-wise. It's still a talent gap between certain teams with our defense comparatively to like facing Philly and Saquon, compared to facing the lower end.
Yeah.
Agreed.
With the additions of Sanborn, Peyton Turner, and Ezeraku, did Dallas sneakily improve their run defense, Mike?
I think they got better against the outside run. They have more defensive ends that could hold up on the edge. They have a little bit faster linebackers that could get outside. Their corners, like Elam's a very good run defender at corner. So yeah, I'd say on the edges they got better. The worry is your defensive tackles, of course.
What kind of inspired that question is, I mentioned that I was like doing research and taking notes for OTA like reports that I had missed last week, and I was listening to Jeff Kavanaugh and Brian Broaddus talk about week 2, and they got onto an interesting discussion about the run defense, and Brian Broaddus pointed out how like the defensive tackles might have been getting a lot of unwarranted hate because of how bad the run defense is, and Brian Broaddus was saying how maybe you should look at also the edge and how they either contributed or didn't contribute, and maybe that the defensive tackles, yeah, of course, could have been better, but maybe the edge defenders also could have been better against the run too. Do you think that as a whole, maybe that this defensive line will be better against the run with the pieces and with Eberflus?
Well, I think what Brian was talking about, exactly how Dallas attacked it. They were like, we may not be great up the middle still, but the problem was defensively, teams could go for 6 a carry up the middle, but then go on the edge and go for 20 as well, or 8 yards as well, because your defensive ends, other than Tank, weren't holding up on the edge. The linebackers and safeties were late filling holes, and the corners didn't even want to fill, in the run game. As far as Diggs was concerned, your best run defenders last year were Tank, like always, and then he got injured, and then Malik Hooker, and that's not good. Like that's bad. So, I think the idea is get some linebackers with speed to get to the edge, get corners that'll play up and make tackles, and get defensive ends that are edge setters. And then if make teams have to attack you only up the middle, because then if you get stops, you're looking at 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8. Whereas you get a stop on the edge and it's still 2nd and 4 because the cornerback got drug an extra yard or 2, or the safety was a second late because they were making sure to cover their area in case it's a play action. So I think that was their plan, was like, let's make sure the other areas that were weak versus run or rushing games are better, and then we'll see if Mozzie, if Jay Toia, if Osa, if adding Solomon Thomas, if those guys can help bolster the interior at all.
Do you think our new linebackers can help with the run game, Brendan?
Sanborn for sure. For sure. He was a tackle machine. Kenneth Murray, he's a lot more athletic than what we've had, but he's more of just a fly around guy. I don't know how much well he's going to be able to fill in the gaps, especially against bigger guards when they go traps and stuff. But Sanborn, yeah, as y'all can tell, I'm a big fan of that signing.
Did y'all see that report that Kenneth Murray said he wanted to be the green dot? What are y'all's thoughts?
Yeah.
What are y'all's thoughts on that?
If he can, he has obviously he's more of the athlete than Sanborn is.
Yeah.
But if Sanborn knows the defense and can get you in position better,
right?
It is what it is. Eberflus is going to, put guys that put you in the best position, and if Sanborn can come in and tell Murray, who's the fast athletic guy, hey, this is what you need to do right here.
Mm-hmm.
That's a positive. But we saw LVE do it for Damone Clark, and Damone Clark played at his best was when LVE was healthy, telling him, here's what's going, attack it.
Man, Damone Clark, I feel like a name we haven't talked about in a couple of years. You think he's going to make this team?
Special teams player, if he does make it.
I was really excited for him, man, especially getting him in the fifth round. And he had a promising rookie season from what I remember, but he just kind of fell off the face of the earth.
No instincts. He doesn't see it well enough.
Yeah, so you mentioned that is like, does that not kind of remind you of Murray though, where he is just an athlete? He doesn't really diagnose plays. He's just so fast and so physical that he can out athlete you, but he doesn't really understand the X's and O's, if you will.
I think he's better at it than Clark.
Yeah,
but he's just not a Sanborn with it. So he would probably be a league average linebacker at diagnosing, where Sanborn would be good and Damone Clark would be poor. And so he's average. So you add average athleticism. I mean, average mental with good to great athleticism, and you can make some plays. But you could also still get beat by, fake sweeps and misdirections and stuff like that.
Gotcha. If the Cowboys' run defense improves from 29th to top 20, Mike, how big of a difference would that make for this defense?
I'm trying to think what I put for that. That's a good question. Okay. So what I put is the key is going to be that they get the team passing so that it's pass rush. If whether it's we didn't score enough points to get a lead or we're just not stopping the run. If teams are able to run during the game on us consistently, we're going to have trouble. And so even if they went up 10 spots and we're a middle of the line defense, that could be something where they're really good against the bad teams, but then San Francisco, Buffalo, Baltimore all kick their ass, and so they end up in the middle. And when you play a contender, you still got your ass beat. So I think it's going to be getting them to pass downs, not really the run defense this year.
Are you more concerned with our pass defense or run defense this year, Brendan?
It's always run defense. As long as I've been alive, it's been run defense.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. What about you, Mike? You think about the injury, like the injuries to our secondary and just kind of the question marks and things. Are you more concerned about our run defense or
I want them to pass on us all game because we're going to rotate in. We have Osa, monster pressure player. Micah, monster pass rusher. Dante Fowler, double-digit sack guy. We're bringing in Donovan Azaraku off the bench. Sam Williams should be back, and he has the potential to add to a very good pass rush. So even Nealon's getting so underrated as like somebody who's just a edge setter. He pushes the pocket, and especially the way teams are going to have to block Osa and Micah, and it's going to allow them to get one-on-ones with like a tight end on Nealon, and he just obliterates that. So I want teams passing. If I could eliminate the run game from opposing teams, I would do that.
Shout out to Sam Williams. I heard that he's actually been looking pretty good in OTAs, looking like he's made a full recovery. Haven't heard a whole lot about Nealon though.
No, Nealon, it's hard to flash when you're the style that Nealon and Turner are. They're like Golston. Like, how often did you hear Golston in training camp? Like, never. They're not flash type pass rushers.
True. At full health, Brendan, how good could our defense be in 2025?
So we're talking about full health. So we're talking about Diggs, Overshown, Sam Williams,
Revel.
Yeah. I can't drink the Kool-Aid because I still haven't seen that great of a defense other than like 2018 when our offense couldn't do almost anything for the most part. Fully healthy, so that'll be like what, week 12? Are you gonna be really hopeful? Kind of like this middle of the pack defense. This team's not gonna win off your defense. You gotta hope for 2 to 3 turnovers a game if you want to like really like say you're gonna win this game. But it's all about your offense. So defense, yeah.
What about you, Mike?
I put the same thing. No matter how healthy they are, the way they're built, they're going to have to rely on the offense to score and the defense to get turnovers to be good.
Yeah, as optimistic as I've been about the additions to the coaching staff and then the draft class that we had and the moves that they made in free agency, I know not that exciting, but just adding those depth pieces. I keep kind of looking at this team. It's like, man, I'm excited for this year, but I feel like we're just more going to be a lot better in 2026 than we will be this year.
Very possible. Defensively, especially. I think the problem with the way Dallas does stuff is, okay, we say we're going to be better in 2026, but at the end of this year, you have to imagine Mike is getting paid. But Deron Bland, James Ferguson, Dante Fowler, Solomon Thomas, DeMarco Murray. I can't remember if Murray or Kenneth Murray or Sanborn, if either of them are 2 years. But like they rotate out so many players on 1-year deals, like you never get to build continuity because they're always rotating out players on 1-year deals. So like, yeah, in 2026, we could be great if we, get a wide receiver to replace Pickens and a corner to replace Bland and a linebacker, and a DT. Like, so, and then they don't use free agency really. So like maybe one of those holes are filled competently by a free agent. So now you need your first 3 draft picks to hit again and play immediately and be, it's the same cycle because of the way they team build.
Yeah, good points there, Mike, for sure, as always. Here we are with Mike's views from the sidelines. Who do you think will be our front 7 in run situations?
All right, so we're going to have, versus the run, we're going to have Nealon, Osa, Mozzie, Parsons at defensive line with Sanborn and Murray at linebacker. I think against the run, they play thank you, Jordan. They play a third linebacker, and it's Leofau because it's, it's early down runs. So, and Leofau can pass rush. He's decent in coverage. So you could put him in and have him be a player there.
What about pass defense, front 7?
Against the pass, now you're moving Nealon out and putting Fowler Jr. You're moving Parsons off of D-line and putting Ezeraku. You're moving out Mozzie and putting Thomas. Obviously, Osa stays. Parsons becomes one of your linebackers. You take out Sanborn for him. You keep Murray in. And then I think the question will be, will they want Leofau or Bell? Will they go to an extra defensive back like Bell or Thomas? I still put Leofau because I think he does enough coverage and he can blitz and everything. And I think it would be pretty fun with Leofau, Parsons, and Murray, all pass rush ability linebackers standing with Fowler, Osa, and Ezeraku. That's gross. And then Solomon Thomas is not a bad pass rusher. Like, that's a gross 7-man. Who the hell's coming? Even for Eberflus, who doesn't really blitz, his blitzing was up last year for the Bears. And I think when you have linebackers like he's going to have, that might come. And then you have Overshown coming in. Like, when he gets back, what do you even do? I think Overshown comes in for Leofau then and, like, solidifies, like, that will be the other guy for sure. So, yeah, that's a nasty pass rush front 7, which is why you need to get to those situations.
Isn't it kind of crazy, though, when you think about it? It's like, man, that run defense sounds solid. That pass defense is exciting, but this defense just doesn't sound like it's going to be very good.
See, I don't think the run defense is Micah's small. Mozzie, we don't know if he's Osa. If Mozzie doesn't have to be double teamed, Osa will get moved by double teams. So then you have Parsons who has trouble setting an edge. Osa against the double team. Mozzie, if he's okay one-on-one, but he won't take up doubles. And so you got Nealon, a second-year guy, or Peyton Turner, trying to hold the one edge. Well, you had Tank doing that, and Tank's 10 times better than those two, and it didn't help you. So, the run defense is still a worry.
Do you think, Eberflus will do anything kind of creative, move Micah around, kind of use him as a chess piece?
Yeah, they'll move him out of they have too many good defensive end pass rushers not to move him to a designated pass rush linebacker. Like, I expect in the Philly game, a lot of third downs, Micah to be a linebacker that pass rushes, but also is a spy on Hurts. Mm-hmm. So he'll delay pass rush. He'll wait and see what the defensive ends do and where Hurts has to move, and then he'll go clean up. So he'll still be attacking the quarterback, but not in like a protective way.
Yeah. All right, and last Mike's view from the sidelines. Has your Cowboys source shared anything Cowboys fans maybe should keep their eyes on, something that hasn't been revealed to the public?
Nothing's going on right now. For Dallas, they're going to take a while to see what their young guys could do, see how guys are from injury, that type of thing, and they'll go from that later. It just passed June 1st, so let's see what cuts are made and stuff like that, and then maybe we'll get some new news.
Just wasn't sure if there was any whispers or fly in the wall type of discussions maybe he'd heard.
He rarely contacts me, and I try not to bug him unless it's something like, hey, I heard stuff about Dak's contract. Hey, have you heard anything like that? And there's nothing like that going on. We all know what's up with Micah's deal. Like, if I was going to ask him about something, I would be, hey, have you heard anything about Bland or Ferguson? And it's just not – I know Dallas well enough to know not to waste his time. Gotcha, that's why I get answers because I rarely ask questions.
Right. I hear you. All right, here we are with Brendan's bashing. What you got for us this week, Brendan?
Honestly, it's kind of going off what Mike just said. It's about contracts. Mike, you have guys that you should be paying because they are kind of bashing Diggs and how he did his recovery. He's having the whole documentary done. But, the Joneses don't trust Diggs. Okay, well, then pay Bland. They're like, oh, but we're scared of the injury. Well, pay Bland. Do you want – so you cut Diggs next year and you don't re-sign Bland? Do you want that cornerback room? Do you want to go in 2026 with, please, God, let Kyrie Elam and Shavon Rebel be our guys? Please, God, when you have two All-Pros gone? No. Micah, just dude, blank check. Here you go. Yeah, there we go. Just sign that real quick. Cool, we're done. Tyler Smith already needs to get done because what hasn't Tyler Smith done for this team? Sorry, he hasn't played center. He didn't deserve all that money then. Or whatever. And also, they love getting contracts when the players are cheap. Sign Jake Ferguson then. Sign that's what you got to do. It's like, oh, wow, we can get him for cheap because this is a low end. But, now we want to bet on it. What if Jake Ferguson goes back to 2023 this year? What if he legit goes back to being the same guy we know he is? He's out there being athletic. Cool. You want to pay him top end tight end money? No, you don't. You just have easy guys to pay. You're not going to pay Pickens. I understand that. You want to see how his character goes throughout the year. You want to see if he can actually be your good number two. And also, he's expensive. It'll be expensive as hell anyway. So I understand that. But you want to get your number one corner done. Talk about getting your tight end. But also, just pay your all-pros. Actually, yeah, I'm not even talking about Jake. Just pay your all-pros. I think that's your main goal. I feel like if you drafted the guys, they showed up well enough to be on the all-pro team once or multiple times. I feel like you did a good job. I feel like they deserve to get paid. But no, we're still here in
Mike and Tyler Smith should be paid already.
Yeah, we're here in June going, okay, cool. And we're going to be praying to God next February. January, February, please re-sign them. Please, let's see breaking news. DaRon Bland, 4-year contract.
Yeah. If you had to choose one to get re-signed out of Jake Ferguson, DaRon Bland, and George Pickens, Who would you pick?
You're a horrible person. You are a mean person. All right. Well, okay. Me, in my heart of hearts, I'm saying Jake Ferguson just because I love that man at tight end. But no, but as non-biased, because I'm gonna do what I would say just as a pure fan of Jake Ferguson. It's George Pickens. Like if he balls out, CeeDee Lamb has a great friend at wide receiver and a running mate that Dak doesn't have to go, oh hell, why are two safeties staring at CeeDee Lamb? That's not happening anymore. That means if you don't re-sign Jake Ferguson, your tight end next year will be like, oh, hey, he's open too now because everyone's staring at the outside. It just opens up so much more if you have a potential great number two. Look at T. Higgins. Do I think T. Higgins can go to another team and be great? But damn, is he good next to Jamar Chase.
After I heard that story about George Pickens doing the push-ups with CeeDee Lamb, I'm like, man, I wonder if the Cowboys have a good season, like Pickens is productive and having fun. I wonder if he would like sign here at a discount just knowing that he could make a lot of like endorsement money outside of his contract. What do you guys think?
I don't think at least 30.
I don't think Dallas will pay him even a discount. They're not interested.
Not even like 16 or 17 million.
Oh, there's no way that's happening.
If I know the word that I heard is 20 million. They go, they're not interested in paying a second wide receiver 20 million, which is the market for decent. And George Pickens would probably be better than that. George Pickens would probably be around the 20 because he could be a 1 somewhere. So his money is going to be in the 25 range. So,
but I'm just saying though, do you think if George Pickens was like having fun with his buddy CeeDee Lamb, playing in a fun city like Dallas and winning, do you think that he would take like 17 or 18, knowing that he could make a lot more endorsement money? Is what I'm asking. I'm going to start with Mike.
I don't think Pickens would. I think Pickens is one that's like, nah, dude, I need to get paid like the best.
Okay, what do you think, Brendan?
That guaranteed money better be high. That guaranteed money better be most of the contract, if not all. If you're going that cheap, yeah, that thing better be completely guaranteed. Injuries and all of that.
I mean, would you pay 5 years and $90 million fully guaranteed to George Pickens, Mike?
$5 years, 90? That's really nothing.
That's $18 million a year.
Is it? How did I mess it up? Why did I get $14 million? God,
I did the exact same, and I hate myself.
If he would, I don't think he'd sign that in any way. That contract's way too long for way too cheap. But if he would do it for 5 years, yeah, because the way you can move the money around, you can make that contract under $10 million a year at 5 years. You can move that money like a son of a bitch. So yeah, I'd do that.
Brendan.
Yeah. I think he's gonna ball out because I think he's gonna want to get at least close to T. Higgins' money. But the thing is that what he's shown that T. Higgins hasn't. George Pickens has been a number 1 in the league, so he can be the guy. That's why T. Higgins going somewhere else. Like if he went to Carolina like a year ago, I don't think he's gonna do that well. You haven't shown me anything that you can be the option.
I don't know, man. I think Carolina would have happily played T. Higgins.
Well, I'm just saying. I don't think it would work.
Oh, I got you. You're not a believer in Bryce Young?
I don't think T. Higgins is that guy to like. I need him to try to take the safety away.
Got you. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about T. Higgins. I think he's he's performed without Jamar Chase on the field. So, I think that he could be the guy, but I think it might take the right situation. But before we go on any longer, let's go ahead and move on to one word. Brendan, if Mozzie Smith and Tyler Guyton take the next step, the Cowboys team will be blank in 2025.
Sleepers.
I like that one.
Because let's just say they go up. No one's gonna talk about it. No one's gonna say, "Hey, Dallas only gave up 60 yards rushing yesterday," or "Hey, man, Dak only had 4 total pressures that game, and barely any of it was from the left side." No one's talking about that. So yeah,
Mike.
I put contenders, but I like sleepers better. I think sleeper is a good word.
I also put contenders. Mike, I think you took a peek at my show sheet.
No, sir, I did not. I go through it before. I know you always
all
say
jokes,
it,
my friend.
but I never see them. I did see you editing the one copying the one question when you pasted and texted to me. I was like, I wonder if you're changing that because I'm about to write that down. And then you sent it to me, and I was like, okay, I get the gist of it. I'll just reword it, however, and then I'll know when you ask it. So I did see that. So I was like, oh, he's actually on putting the stuff in, but I didn't see any answers.
No, we've always prided ourselves on when we have like a similar or the exact same answer to a question, we pride ourselves on knowing that we don't ever look at each other's answers on the show sheets. It's just kind of funny that we both put contenders. I didn't think that would make that big of a difference to you, to be honest.
Well, that's the two biggest holes, left tackle and one technique. So
right.
If they play well, if the left tackle plays well, there's not really a hole in the offense. And if the one technique plays, solid starting football, that defensive line is going to be hard to deal with.
Yes, sir. I mean, even if just Tyler Guyton takes the next step, I think the Cowboys offense would be good enough to at least win us one playoff game.
Agreed.
What do you think, Brendan?
It depends on who you're facing. I'm not getting my hopes up. I'm not saying somehow you're facing Detroit in round one.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Oh yeah, sorry Baker. Bye.
Okay. All right. Top 5 sports what ifs, just for examples for you guys listening in the audience, like what if LeBron never signed with Miami? What if Jordan never retires to play baseball? And what if Jerry Jones never bought the Cowboys? We are doing our top 5 sports what ifs. I'm excited for this top 5 tonight. Brendan, start us off.
So I got help from my friend Cooper doing this one. So I, of course, with my first 2, you'll see how. But my first one, what if Cam dove on the ball in Super Bowl 50?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Because that first off, that keeps him in the game, and Cam has never been looked at the same afterwards. Everyone's like, "Oh, dude, he's fighting, he's doing all this crazy stuff because his MVP." Or, "Oh, dude, you don't care about the team, you don't care about anything but yourself." But what if he dove on that ball to try to win, get him back in that game? Everything changes.
He used to get just destroyed in games, man, because he was a running quarterback. He never got any calls or anything. And the fact that he chose that moment to not be as physical as he normally is strange.
On the biggest stage.
Exactly. Here we are with the Sports 78. Haven't seen him in a while. What if DeMarco Murray hadn't fumbled in the 2014 Green Bay playoff game?
They win that game.
See, that's bigger than the Dez catch.
I was going to say, is that a bigger what if than the Dez catch?
Yeah.
Yes, because that was the real key.
And yeah, I mean, I think that game kind of, that play got Green Bay back into the game. But if we had scored that, I think that kind of puts them out, right? And that moment,
if Dez scores, you're giving Aaron Rodgers, who's done it to us a billion times, the ball with a few minutes left. He just comes down and scores on us again. He's done it all the time.
With a bad hammy.
Yeah, that's young Aaron Rodgers too. That's young Aaron Rodgers.
Yes, sir. All right, Mike, give us your number 5, sir.
If Dallas drafted TJ Watt, it'd have been so much better. I don't know.
I had that on my top 5
or what, but just the fact that the whole draft, I wish I could go back and find those tweets, but from pick number 1, I was saying from the first pick, somebody please draft Taco Charlton, because I knew that if he got to Dallas, that's what was going to happen. And not only did he get there, but TJ Watt stayed, and you picked him over TJ Watt. Ugh, gross.
I remember praying that man, who was the defensive tackle, nose tackle for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that got taken in that draft? Vita Vea, praying that he fell to the Cowboys, and he got taken one spot ahead. I'm borderline crying, man.
It's brutal.
Brutal. Number 5 for me. This one's still kind of this is a fresh wound, if you will. But what if Nico never traded Luka?
Almost put that one, but I was like, you guys are going to be like, fuck you. It's too early to know what would have happened if they did.
The reason I think of it is that, what if we never traded Luka, and then the Mavericks also still randomly got the first overall pick. You know what I mean? They would have
never been in the lottery with Luka Doncic. Never. It would never happened.
But we still had all those injuries, though.
No, it don't matter. Luka, you're in the playoffs. That guy is too special. He could have had half the team. He took that team to the finals.
I don't know if we beat Memphis.
And you'd have never got the first pick anyway, because the whole reason you got the first pick is because we traded Luka to Dallas. Yeah. It was an agreement made by the league.
Yeah, too early to tell in the Luka trade for sure, but that was just something that I wondered. Number 4, what if there was no salary cap in sports?
Yeah, I'd be interested if Dallas would. I know what Philly would do. I don't know if Dallas. That's the problem. I don't know if Dallas would do what they need to do. They use the salary cap. They have plenty. Okay, what are they doing with the $30 million extra they have right now? Like, they're well under the cap, but they don't do anything with it. Salary cap is just something they use as an excuse to be cheap. So Philadelphia would just put another $100 million on the team right now. Kansas City, what they could do with no salary cap. Dallas would not even be competitive. Dallas is competitive because of the salary cap, because they can do stuff around making other people be somewhat as cheap as they are.
Yeah, I wonder how it would impact the smaller market teams, like Milwaukee's and Green Bay's and things like that. Like if they would, of course they could offer players whatever they want, but would players be willing to go there even just for the money?
Yeah, it'd be a lot like what Dodgers won the World Series and then signed every free agent. And it's like KD and the Warriors. Like, even if you liked baseball, which I'm kind of off on baseball already, but even if you did like it, it's like, what's the point of watching 162 games? One team has 14 players. Like, the New York Yankees are I'd say a top 5 team this year. That's a team that I like. Top 5, is that fair, Brendan? I don't really follow. Are they around the top 5?
10 for sure.
Okay,
top 10.
They have one guy that would start on Dodgers. Like, Aaron Judge would take somebody's spot. Nobody else on their team is taking any spot on the Dodgers unless there's injuries. Like, they're that loaded, and that's the number 5th team, say, in the league. And they have one guy. So,
imagine Aaron Judge playing center field for the Dodgers, dude, with Sheho and all those other guys. Man, that'd be disgusting.
Might as well.
All right, number 4 on your list, Mike.
Number 4 on mine. What if Romo never got hurt in 2016? Does Dak ever get a shot? Does he ever come out in those 4 years? Does Romo play another 3 seasons? Do we win with that 26 team that was pretty friggin' loaded? It was built for Romo. Zeke was a monster. Would have been rookie of the year if it wasn't for Dak. That offensive line, that's a big what if. What if Romo didn't get hurt? What would be the fate of the Cowboys and the Cowboys going further? Would we have ever even seen Dak if Romo didn't get hurt?
What if Romo, we just win the Super Bowl with Romo and then he passes the torch to Dak? How sick would that be?
But do you think honestly, he didn't want to retire. If he could have stayed playing for Dallas as a starter, he wasn't retiring for another couple years. He looked around and said, well, I could get a payday somewhere else, or I can get paid more to just talk about football. I'm injured all the time, and then I could be a lifetime Dallas Cowboy.
I wonder how much better, though, Dak might be if he had got to sit behind Romo for a couple of years. Do you think he'd be a lot better or better at all?
Possibly.
No, he needed the experience.
I agree. It's all on how you feel he developed. It did take him a couple of years to get his Jamil
Showers.
But it all depends. Like, Dak had to get his footwork in order, so maybe he gets that in the time he's working with Romo. But Romo never seemed somebody that was going to really help him like that. Maybe he would have if he didn't see Dak as a threat. I don't know, but I'm happy that he got the experience. I think it was better for him.
Do a healthy Romo and Ezekiel Elliott, are they better than healthy Dak and healthy Zeke in their rookie years?
Well, sure, if they're healthy. No, that's no offense to. We're talking about a rookie quarterback compared to a quarterback that's seen everything. By that time, Romo knew what was coming from everybody. He just couldn't stay healthy. So, Romo would have been better, but you got to have that transition and have 10 years of good quarterback play that the front office fucked up again.
Yeah, Romo was actually, he had some pretty nasty seasons. I think he kind of gets overlooked a little bit towards the end of his career.
Yeah, he had figured it out by like year 7, 8, and he was pretty damn special when he was healthy in those last few years.
All right, Brendan, number 4 for you, sir.
So my number 4 is twofold here. Because mine is, what if Dak doesn't miss his interview with Denver?
Oh,
because Denver liked Dak, but with him missing, I'm pretty sure it was like him missing his flight or something like that. I haven't read up on it in a while, but I just remember that happening. And so because Denver liked Dak, so what do they go that they don't trade up for Paxton Lynch? Because Denver beat Dallas for Paxton Lynch. Yeah. So what if they actually in 2016 Dallas trades up and gets Paxton Lynch at the back end of the first round? Denver drafts Dak later, probably like the third. I would say they probably draft Dak in the third that go around. So actually, the passing the torch wouldn't be to Dak Prescott. It would be to Paxton Lynch with Romo going down with Ezekiel Elliott.
Oh, my God.
It would have been
I didn't even know that story about Dak Prescott in Denver. That's crazy.
Romo would have been back as the.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What was Paxton Lynch? Was he like just not good, or was he like not a hard
he's
worker?
Not good he's not good in the UFL, dude.
Yeah.
he's not good in the UFL.
Quarterback.
He's playing in the UFL. That says a lot.
He's a super tall quarterback that everyone fell in love with. Like, oh, he has the prototypical QB size. This is what you think about when you want to draw, when you picture one.
He didn't have.
That's all he had. That's all he had.
Nice. All right, so number 3 on your list, Mr. Brendan.
Yeah. Well, I honestly, after these, it's nothing about quarterbacks, but I like doing the scenarios where every quarterback would change. What if Russell Wilson actually completed the pass to Ricardo Lockett for the touchdown against the Patriots? So it's not like, oh, what if they ran the ball? What if Ricardo Lockett catches the slant instead of Malcolm Butler intercepting it? That gives Brady one less ring. Russell Wilson looked like holy shit, he pulled that off. Really? They didn't give it to Beast, they let Russell Wilson pull it. So guess what? His legacy in Seattle is changed forever. And Tom Brady has one less ring.
That's a good one, man.
I like that.
Especially you don't just say give the ball to Marshawn Lynch, but you actually say completing the pass. That's a big difference.
Yeah, see, Cooper said that. He's like, oh, what if Marshawn Lynch ran? Like, that's boring. People have talked about that. I'm like, it's an easy what if. Give it to one of the best power backs of all time. Duh.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, no. What if Ricardo Lockett actually caught it?
All right, Mike, number 3 for you.
Number 3 on my list is, what if Michael Jordan played when there was social media? And it took him 7, 8 years to win a title. And by that time, he was labeled a loser, can't win the big one, not good enough. Oh, you lost 3 straight to Detroit. Then he wins and he has all the gambling issues, and that comes out, and just he's kind of an asshole. And that stuff happens, and just more stories about him could get out. Just imagine the difference. Like, you see it with how people talk about LeBron and basically every great player on social media. It'd been interesting to see the difference in the narrative. When he finally won his first ring, they'd have been like, oh, it took you long enough. Now that Magic's basically has HIV, Kareem's retired, Bird has no back. The Pistons beat you 3 straight. Now that everybody's done, now you win a title. It would just been crazy to see the difference social media back then would have made in the history of how he's seen now.
Crazy. Another one could be, what if Jordan never even played basketball?
Yeah, wild. Ewing would have a ring. Elijah would probably have a few rings. It's crazy.
Yeah, I wonder who like the basketball legend would be. Quite a few, I'm sure, but it's a fun thought. Number 3 for me, what if Shaq and Kobe had stuck together?
That's wild. That's
I mean, I think you're looking at like 6 straight, honestly, dude.
Yeah,
nobody could touch them. Nobody could touch Shaq when he wanted to play.
Yeah, what if Shaq was as mentally dialed in as Kobe?
Had the work ethic of Kobe. That'd be so
Yes.
disgusting.
They'd have won every year for a really, really long time.
It's crazy to think the run that they could have gone on together.
Yep.
I thought you might appreciate that one, but that is one that actually kind of stuck with me. Number 2 on my list, what if the Herschel Walker trade never happened?
I still think Jimmy wins, but I think Jerry gets a lot more credit because he'd have had to do a little bit more work. But Jimmy was so great.
Some of those franchise-changing players, though, without that trade.
Yeah, but I mean, look how many he took. He built so many players up into great. You know what I mean? Like his offensive line wasn't a bunch of first-round picks, and he built them into monsters. Michael Irvin was already there. He was there the year before. They already had
Troy
Aikman, was going to be the pick. So, yes, it helped him get a lot of pieces, but I think he could have went.
They got so many draft picks from that trade, dude. And like the way that it worked out is like if a player was drafted in the 3rd and you cut him, you got an extra 3rd-round pick and all that stuff. It's like that's insane, dude.
Yeah, that trade was wild. That trade was wild.
Not a trade that you'd ever see go down again, I don't think.
No, never. Nothing crazy like that. Not in the NFL.
Also for a running back, too.
Yeah, definitely not for a running back.
Yeah, in the NBA, it's not for Luka Doncic. It's for not Jordan Poole, but what's his name on the Knicks? My God, who got like 4 first-round picks?
Rudy Gobert.
No, you're
not even him, but
no, there was a trade. Rudy Gobert was like for 4 first-round picks.
Yeah, but no, there was a trade that they made this past offseason. The Knicks traded to the Brooklyn Nets to get a guy that complete like the starting 5 of the college team. Brunson,
the Nova Knicks. Dude, what?
Josh Hart.
It's Mikal Bridges.
Mikal Bridges, yeah. My God. All right, Mike, number 2 on your list.
Number 2 on my list is that if Jimmy and Jerry didn't split up,
yeah,
how much would they have won if they would have stuck together and just been like, hey, we gotta keep drafting and developing players. You sign a Dion or a Jerry if we need to, and they just stayed together.
That's a good one, man. I thought about adding that one on my list too, but I thought one of you guys would have it on there, honestly.
Had to.
Brendan, number 2 for you.
This one is for Mike. What if Chris Paul wasn't vetoed to join Kobe? So we're talking about prime Chris Paul. Here, not old man Chris Paul. We're talking about prime Chris Paul joining Kobe in the mid 2010, early 2010s.
Yeah, and I believe they would still had Gasol because it was a Lamar Odom deal. They would have won another title or 2.
Yeah. Also, just that type of playmaking with Kobe. Ew.
Yeah.
Ew.
It would have been nasty.
Those Hornets teams with Chris Paul and Tyson Chandler and Peja Stojakovic and stuff were so nasty and so fun. David West. I'm glad that trade didn't happen, but that would have been sick to think about Chris Paul and Kobe. What could have been?
Yeah, it's BS. They vetoed that. Makes me mad.
Oh no, but you got Luka. I don't want to hear about it.
Yes, we did get Luka. I made up for it.
All right, Brendan, number 1 on your list, sir.
I'm surprised none of y'all have talked about it yet. Is Dallas drafts Randy Moss after all this publicity of them saying,
God.
we're gonna take
good,
you,
dude.
we're gonna do it, then you take a defensive tackle instead.
That's so
this
good.
time around,
think about that
back into Troy Aikman's career, you get Randy effing Moss.
First of all, they drafted Greg Ellis, sir. Respect Greg Ellis, defensive end.
Yes. Okay. Yes. But we're talking about arguably the most talented wide receiver of all time and the number 2 wide receiver of all time, just going off of everything else.
No, just because you said defensive tackle. I agree. I would have got Randy Moss in a second.
Wasn't Greg? Wasn't he a 3-4 defensive end?
No, he played the opposite side of DeMarcus Ware in the 4-3. They only had one season year at 3-4.
That's my bad. I swear he was more of a 3-4 end, which is like comparatively to a defensive tackle and all of that because they play more inside. But yeah, no, Randy Moss comes in with Troy Aikman on the back end of his career. I mean, you have Emmett at the end of his prime, so who knows what's going to happen with that much talent on the offense still.
All right, Mike, number 1 on your list.
Shaq and Kobe stay together, just like yours.
All right, number 1 on my list. I'm going to change it because, Mike, you actually mentioned the Romo didn't get injured in 2016. So I'll say, dang, I just had and I lost it. What if Sean Payton becomes the head coach instead of, what was it, who they let him go for? Bill Parcells, is that right?
He was on the staff with Bill Parcells, so it would have been who they got after Bill Parcells. Or they would have had yeah, was it? Maybe something like Wade Phillips.
Yeah, but it was Jason Garrett effort. Yeah.
They probably still lose because Jerry doesn't know how to build a team.
Yeah. Well, ending the show on a sad note, unfortunately, because of Mike.
Good job, Mike.
Gotta appreciate his honesty. Mike, where can we find you on Twitter, sir?
At CeeDee Piglet guy is nice and easy.
Brendan, let him know.
At Mike's Mean 23. At Brendan_Smith 26.
Guys, I'm Paul Ryan. You can find me on Twitter at Paul_Ryan15. We appreciate you joining us, and we will see you guys next week.
Good show, y'all.